Have you ever stood at the edge of a canyon, dropped a coin, and just waited for the sound? But the sound of it hitting the bottom, it never
The
comes.
bottomless pit. Yeah.
That is exactly what it feels like to apply for a job right now. I mean, you spend hours tailoring your resume, you obsess over the cover letter, you hit submit on some massive tech giant's portal, Microsoft, Google, whatever,
And nothing.
and then silence. Just absolute deafening silence.
Yeah.
It's the resume black hole.
It is incredibly demoralizing.
Mhm.
And what makes it worse for so many people listening, I think, is that the problem usually isn't that they aren't qualified. They know they can do the job.
Right.
The problem is the signal-to-noise ratio.
You just can't get your signal through the noise of 10,000 other applicants.
Precisely. So the issue isn't confidence, it's translation. Most people are just terrible at translating what they can do into what a specific company needs them to do.
Okay, so today on the deep dive, we are going to fix that translation layer. We're digging into a fascinating piece of source material. It's a table talk conversation featuring a professional named Tanveer. And look, Tanveer isn't some career guru selling a $2,000 course online.
No. He's a guy who actually cracked the code.
And the context here is so important. He didn't just slide laterally from one job to another. He transitioned from the telecom industry directly into a senior role at Microsoft.
And he did it during a time when the tech market was, and still is, pretty brutal.
So the mission for today is to deconstruct exactly how he did it. We want to move you from the mindset of a job applicant, which feels passive and, frankly, a bit desperate,
To the mindset of a product marketer. That is the core theme. We're going to look at how Tanveer essentially feature engineered himself. He treated his career transition like a product launch.
And you should definitely stick around because in the second half, we're going to talk about a specific interview tactic he used. I'll be honest, when I first read it, I thought this sounds incredibly risky.
A little bit, yeah.
It sounds like something from a bad reality TV show. But it worked.
It's a bold move, high risk, high reward for sure.
Okay, so let's unpack this. First, we need to set the scene. Who is Tanveer? Because he wasn't like a fresh grad, right? He had baggage in a good way.
Right, he was an established professional, a senior project manager in telecom, working with major Canadian companies like Rogers and TELUS. And he wasn't just doing basic IT support. He was working on something called Open RAN.
Okay, pause there. I saw Open RAN in the notes. For everyone who isn't a telecom engineer, what on earth is that?
So RAN stands for Radio Access Network. Think of cell towers and all the gear that connects your phone to the network. Traditionally, that hardware is proprietary. So if you buy from vendor A, you have to use vendor A's software. It's a closed system.
Kind of like Apple's walled garden. You buy the iPhone, you're using iOS.
Exactly. Open RAN blows that open. It lets different software run on generic, open hardware. It's cutting edge, it's super complex, and it's the future. And Tanveer was leading the first ever implementation of this in Canada. He was at the top of his game.
So why leave? If you're leading a project like that, you usually ride that wave for 5-10 years. That's job security.
He felt the ground shifting under him. This was around 2022, 2023. We all remember the AI spring when ChatGPT dropped and suddenly the world changed. He realized that while he was deep in telecom, the rest of the world was pivoting hard to artificial intelligence. He described it as an itch.
That intuition, that's something we should probably all pay more attention to. That feeling that you're becoming a dinosaur.
He realized he had a curiosity gap. He saw that AI was starting to eat software, and eventually it would eat telecom too. He didn't want to become a legacy product. So he decided to upgrade the hardware.
And this is step one of the product mindset, product development. He went back to school.
He did. He went for a master's in management analytics at Queen's University and started networking with places like Vector AI. But here's the nuance that most people miss. A lot of people get a master's, they update their LinkedIn, and then they just sit back and wait for offers to roll in.
The field of dreams strategy. If you build it, they will come.
Which almost never works in the job market. Tanveer took a step back and did what he called a market assessment. He explicitly said, I had to find myself and think of myself from the perspective of a product.
What does that actually look like, though, in practice? It sounds a little bit like corporate speak.
It's actually really practical. Most job seekers start by asking, what do I want to do? Good pay, remote work, interesting projects. Tanveer flipped it. He asked, what is the market buying right now?
He looked at the demand side first. Makes sense.
Correct. He scanned the landscape and found 3 specific buckets that were hiring like crazy: technical program manager, transformation leader, and AI analytics manager.
So he identified the product categories that were flying off the shelves.
And then, and this is the feature engineering part, he looked at his own experience, his source code, and asked, how do I refactor my code to fit those buckets? He didn't try to force the market to care about Open RAN.
Right.
He used Open RAN as proof that he could handle complex technical transformation.
That's a huge distinction. He didn't change who he was, he just changed the packaging.
That's the key. And the first place that packaging appears is the resume.
The document that usually ends up in that black hole we were talking about, Tanveer had this really great way of describing bad resumes. He called them history books.
That's a perfect analogy. I see this all the time.
Yeah.
People write resumes that are just a timeline. In 2018, I did this. In 2020, I was responsible for that. It's just a record of duties.
Responsible for managing a team of 5. Responsible for weekly reports. Yeah, I've seen that.
It's so boring. And frankly, it's irrelevant. An employer doesn't care about your history. They care about their future. A history book tells me what happened. A marketing brochure tells me what problem you can solve for me.
So how do you turn the history book into the marketing brochure?
Quantification. But not just throwing numbers around. It's about outcomes versus duties.
Okay, give me a concrete example. Let's say I'm a project manager. A duty would be like manage project timeline and stakeholders. How does Tanveer change that into an outcome?
Tanveer would write something more like, minimized human errors by 85% through process automation, or maybe achieve 70% process improvement by restructuring the workflow.
Okay, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here. What if you're in a role where you don't have hard numbers? What if you're in, I don't know, HR or design, where you can't easily say, I improved the widget by 85%?
That's the most common pushback I hear. But Tanveer's point, and I totally agree with this, is that everything has an impact. If you're in HR and you improved employee retention, you saved the company thousands on recruiting, estimated. If you're a designer and you redesigned a landing page, did clicks go up? By how much?
So it's about digging until you find the metric. You can't just be lazy and list your tasks.
Exactly. Because numbers serve as mental hooks. Manage stakeholders is so vague, it slides right off your brain. 85% reduction in errors sticks. It implies you didn't just show up, you actually changed the state of the business.
You're making a promise. You're saying, I did this for them, so I can do this for you.
Exactly. And that resume strategy is what finally got him the interview at Microsoft.
And this wasn't just a casual chat, right? This was a gauntlet.
A massive gauntlet. 1 HR screening, followed by 5 rounds of interviews. We're talking management, directors, even a senior leader based in Washington, D.C.
5 rounds. Wow. That is exhausting just to think about. And this brings us to the most critical realization Tanveer had. He's sitting there, maybe around 3 or 4, and he has this moment where he realizes, wait a minute, everyone else here is qualified.
That is the scary reality of hiring at big tech. By the time you get to the interview, your technical skills are assumed. You wouldn't be in the room if you couldn't do the job. The baseline is already established.
So the question shifts from, can you do the job, to why should we pick you?
Why are you the superior product option? And this is where Tanveer deployed the tactic we teased at the start, the tagline.
Okay, tell me about this. Because personal tagline sounds like something a LinkedIn influencer would invent. To me, it sounds a little cringe.
It absolutely can be. If it's done poorly, it can sound very artificial. But let's look at how he used it. You know, the tell me about yourself question that opens almost every interview. He didn't just recite his bio. He actually asked for permission to share his tagline.
He asked permission. May I share my tagline with you?
It's a pattern interrupt. The interviewer is expecting, well, I grew up in Toronto, I went to Queens. Instead, Tanveer says, I have a personal motto that defines how I work. Can I share it? It just wakes them up.
Okay, I'm listening. What was the tagline?
He said, hard work delivers results, and when it is equipped with integrity and collaboration, it brings out positive transformation, operational excellence, and a stronger team.
Okay. It's a mouthful. It's very corporate.
It is very corporate. But look at who he's talking to. He's interviewing at Microsoft. This isn't some startup in a garage. It's a massive enterprise.
That's a really good point. He's speaking their dialect.
Exactly. And he said he could see the interviewer's eyes light up.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because in one sentence, he hit 3 major corporate keywords: integrity, collaboration, operational excellence. He is signaling, I am not just a worker, I am a culture carrier.
Wow. It frames him as a leader immediately. It's almost like a mission statement.
It anchors the entire interview. So if things get tough later in the technical questions, the interviewer subconsciously remembers, oh, but this is the guy who values integrity and collaboration. It buys you the benefit of the doubt.
It's risky, though. If you say that with low energy, it falls so flat you have to sell it.
You have to believe it. It has to be authentic. If you're just memorizing lines, they will smell it a mile away. But Tangier treated it like a pitch on Shark Tank. He was selling his personal brand.
So he hooks them with the tagline. Now he has to answer all the behavioral questions. Tell me about a time you failed, tell me about a conflict. Standard stuff. We all know the STAR method for that.
Situation, task, action, result. It's the gold standard.
But Tanveer hacked it. He added an extra letter. STAR R.
The second R stands for reflection.
Why is that so important?
Let's role play this for a second so you can really hear the difference. Ask me a standard interview question.
Okay. Tell me about a time a project didn't go as planned.
Okay, here's the standard STAR answer. The situation was we were behind schedule. The task was to catch up. The action I took was to hire 2 contractors. The result was we finished on time.
Okay, solid. You solved the problem, you get a B+.
It's competent, but it's static. Now, here is the STAR answer. We finished on time, but upon reflection, I realized we fell behind because our initial scoping was too optimistic. So, for the next project, I implemented a buffer week in the planning phase, which prevented that panic from ever happening again.
Oh, I see the difference. That is a big difference. The first one says I fixed it. The second one says I learned from it so I won't have to fix it again.
Boom.
Yeah.
That is the money shot. In a world with AI and rapid change, your current knowledge will be obsolete in 2 years. Employers want to know, how fast can you learn? Reflection proves you have a learning engine built in.
It turns a war story into a case study.
It also shows humility. It shows you're constantly iterating on yourself. Again, treating yourself like a product. Version 1.0 had a bug. Version 2.0 is patched.
I love that. Now, there's one other verbal tick you mentioned, the whole I versus we trap. We are trained from kindergarten to be team players. There's no I in team.
And that is great advice for working and just terrible advice for interviewing.
Tanveer was really strict about this. He said, use I.
It feels so uncomfortable for people, you know? You feel like you're stealing credit. But think about it from the interviewer's perspective. They aren't hiring your team. They aren't hiring your old boss. They are hiring you. If you say, we decided to pivot, I have no idea if you led the pivot or if you were just getting coffee while it happened.
So you have to carve out your specific contribution. The team built the app, but I designed the database schema.
Correct. You can acknowledge the team, I worked with a great team, but you must immediately follow up with, my specific role was X. I initiated Y. I analyzed Z.
It's about ownership.
It's about accountability. Absolutely.
Another thing he emphasized was adaptability. He made sure to tell them he was flexible, willing to change work styles, processes, even hours.
Which, again, fits the product mindset. He's showing that the product is compatible with the user's ecosystem. Microsoft has its own culture. He's assuring them he can plug and play without any friction.
Now, before we wrap up, we have to talk about the tools he used. We mentioned he studied AI, but he also used AI to get the job, specifically LinkedIn Premium.
Yeah, this is a really practical tip for everyone listening. He used the Insights feature on LinkedIn.
How does that actually help? Is it just a vanity metric?
No, it's competitive intelligence. It's like spying on the other team. LinkedIn Premium can tell you you are in the top 10% of applicants based on skills. Or maybe more importantly, it might show you that 60% of the other applicants have a PMP certification and you don't.
So it reveals your blind spots.
It's that market assessment all over again. If you see everyone else has a skill you lack, you have 2 choices. Go get that skill, or rewrite your resume to emphasize a different strength that overpowers it. He used it to tweak his product features in real time.
It really is an arms race. If everyone else is using AI to write their resumes and using data to apply, you can't just rely on a Word doc and hope for the best anymore.
And yet, despite all this strategy, the master's degree, the STAR method, the tagline Tanveer admitted something so deeply human: imposter syndrome.
I think that's the most relatable part of this whole story. He's applying to Microsoft, seeing all these other resumes and thinking, there are people smarter than me here.
And he was probably right. There's almost always someone technically smarter or with more years of experience. But Tanveer got the job.
Why?
Because the job market isn't a meritocracy of raw intelligence. It's a marketplace of solutions. Tanveer accepted that he might not be the best coder in the room, but he made damn sure he was the best solution to the hiring manager's problem.
He positioned himself better.
He sold the value better. He connected the dots for them. Here is my hard work. Here is my integrity. Here is my ability to learn.
Hmm.
That is a package that beats raw IQ 9 times out of 10.
So let's bring this all home. If you're listening to this deep dive and you feel like you're just shouting into the void, what are the key takeaways?
Well, I see 3 main pillars. Number 1, product mindset. Stop asking what you want. Start asking what the market needs and feature engineer your skills to fit that gap.
Number 2, quantify. Burn the history book. Build a marketing brochure. If you can't put a number on it, you need to dig deeper until you can.
And number 3, differentiate.
Yeah.
Use the STAR method to show you're a learning machine. And don't be afraid of a tagline or at least a strong personal branding statement that anchors your values right up front.
So here's a challenge for everyone listening. Tanveer's tagline was, "Hard work delivers results." It's simple, it's strong. If you walked into an interview tomorrow and had 30 seconds to define your promise to an employer, what would your tagline be?
It's a hard question. It forces you to really distill who you are.
It really does. Are you a history book or are you a solution? I guess that's the question we're leaving you with today.
Good luck out there.
Thanks for diving deep with us. See you next time.